Welcome back everyone. So now we want to actually animate our catapult and we want it to have a good nice swing action and to release this ballistic and we want it to look as realistic as possible. So the way we do that is we're going to need a fair few bones. We're going to need these things to shake or move when we fire this thing. We're going to need this weight definitely to move. We're going to need the wheels to move slightly. And we're going to need this to kind of go around, and also we're going to need to put some rope in here as well. So I think the first thing we'll do is actually put the rope in, and then we'll move on to the other things. I'm going to show you how to create just one animation for this catapult, but at the end you should be able to do much more. So you should be able to have an idle animation because you'll already have the bones in place and you'll already actually know how to do it. You'll also be able to create a moving animation so that you can take this into a games engine or something like that and get it working correctly. So the first thing we need to do is we need to actually join it all up together, because at the moment as you can see it's split into many parts. So let's first of all click on this and hide it, and let's hide this as well, and we can go in solid mode. We don't actually need to see the materials at this point. So let's now grab it all. So grab it all like that, and it'll all turn orange. Just shift and left click on another part just so you get a yellow part, and then press Ctrl J, and then you'll notice that it all goes to one mesh. Now just have a look round and make sure that you're happy with all the smoothed edges, and if you're not, just then go in and fix those. For instance, you might want these parts to be more rounded, or this part here is definitely not correct, as you can see. So I'll press tab, I'll go into this part here, I'll right click and I'll put shade smooth, and now you'll see that that doesn't disappear yet, and that's because we need to come over here and just put this up slightly just to get rid of that. And I'm just going to make sure that like pieces like this as well. So let's go into this, and basically what we're doing, we're just fixing it up ready for animation. I only need to make these smooth, the ones underneath no one will see anyway, and you can see that it's not really done anything at the moment. I just need to turn that up just to smooth those off. Now one thing I am being careful of is I don't actually want to smooth parts off that I don't want smoothed off, so I'm always looking around just to make sure it's looking correct. For instance, you can see these parts here now, they are smoothed off, and I don't particularly want these smoothed off. I actually want them hard edges. So I'll press tab and I'll press Alt H, and I'll go in and I'll grab each one of these, and what we're going to do is we're just going to shade them flat, not smooth. So let's do that now, and I'll do the other side as well. And it's important this last part just to go over your build and just make sure that everything is working as intended before we start animating it. So let's grab those, right click, and we'll shade flat, and there we can see that they So what we'll do is we'll go in and we'll actually grab these parts around here, and we're going to select all the edges that we want to shade with a hard edge. So now if I just pick this one, for instance, I go to mesh and I go to shading, and then I come down to sharp edges, and you'll see you get a blue line on there, and now when you press it, it comes out exactly as we want it. It's long-winded, I understand that. I wish there was a quicker way of doing it. But unfortunately there's not. We could turn this down, for instance, and that would do the same thing, but then we would lose smoothing on other parts of the mesh, and that's not something we want to do. And I guess the other option is we could split these up from the rest of the mesh and do it that way, but again when we do that, then we're going to have problems with animation, so we don't particularly want that either. We want to keep the mesh as intact as possible. I'm just making sure that I've not missed any here, because when we animate, I find the easier, so if you keep it with all the bones together, so not split. So let's just come up to here, mesh first, shading, sharp edges, and I'll just check that, and then I'll carry on telling my thoughts. So we want to keep the mesh all together. We want to keep the bones all together, because when we do take it through, or if we did take it through to a games engine, it's much easier if the bones are all together. if the bones are all split up, it's a lot harder to actually export it and get all the bones working, I find, in the game's engine. So I suggest you do it the same way as I'm going to do it, as I will show you, and you shouldn't have many problems doing it like that, especially when you come then as well to making multiple animations, because as I say, normally when I'm sending something through to someone with something like this, it will have at least 3 animations, and from there within the game's engine then you can manipulate the timings on the animations, but the actual animations, trying to manipulate those in the game's engine is much harder. So let's shade these sharp edges like that, and I'm just going to go and make sure they're still correct and I've not missed any, and now come to the other side, of course. Okay, and both Unity and Unreal, which are primarily the main games engines, I would say. There are others, of course, but those are the main ones. They both kind of work the same way with sending through animations in that way. So, or you might want to just leave it in Blender. In this course, we're only covering creating the animations in the first place, creating the bones and things like that. We're not actually going to cover sending it through to Unreal or Unity. I might cover that in another course, but we can only cover so much in each course. And I find if I make the courses too long, actually, that people don't watch them so much of it, so they miss out on a lot of vital information. So let's shade this one smooth as well. So I'm going to come up to mesh, and I'm going to go to shading and sharp edges, and then I'm just going to check that out once more, and then I'll do the last one, and then we can start first of all with our rope, because we do want rope on there. I mean, if we don't have the rope on there, it just loses the realism, because obviously something like this wouldn't be just wound with a turner and then no rope attached to it. So that's why we've put those bundles of rope actually on it. So we will deal with that, and then of course later on we're also going to deal with actual fire VFX and particle system, just to give it that realism. So actually sending through though the fire into another game's engine will be a problem. So you're better off creating that within that game's engine, but you will have the animation there set up ready. And I think with Unreal, at least, I find like setting up fire and things like this is not that hard actually. So let's again come up to mesh, shading, sharp edges, and let's have a look around there, and that's looking right now. So I'm happy with that. Again, I'm just going to go around and I'm just going to make sure that I'm happy with every part of this just before I come in and then put my bones in and my rope in. I don't want any parts that are not correct. So I just suggest like you just do the same, just spend this little bit of time just making sure everything's correct. And I'm checking the chains as well, just to make sure I've got no hard edges. Like here you can see there is a hard edge, and here. So let's come again to our smooth and just turn it up slightly, and now again you've just got to make sure that nothing has been smoothed out. You can go along and make sure all the edges are sharp, and like you can see now, like we've messed with this a little bit. Let's just turn it down and see how much down we need to go before we actually fix that. So I'm just clicking this down, and there you can see now they're starting to pop back. Now so when these have popped back now, if I go to, for instance, my chain again, I'm looking now to see if those edges have come back. Now the edges on here have not, I don't think, they've not come back. So let's once more have a look at this. But we can see that we still have got some problems with some of the wood on here. So we can fix this one though quite easily. So I'm just going to turn that back up to something like 62. And then I'm just going to press my material mode on and just have a look what these actually look like with the material back on, because this is after all leather, so we could have harder edges on here. So what I might do is harden these edges on here but smooth these on here, just to make this correct. So I'll go back now to solid mode, and I think I will actually do that. So the easiest way to do this one's a bit easier than the other one. So what we'll do is we'll come into here and I'll Alt Shift click, and that'll give me it going round like that. And I'll do the same on this and this, and I'll just check it out just to make sure that it looks okay. And then we'll press Control Plus on the number pad and just go then to the parts that we want. Right click and put Shade Smooth. And you can see that it's not actually smoothed them off enough. So let's bring this up just a little bit like so. And now you can see they are actually smoothed off. And now we can come in and fix the top and these parts here. So now what I want to do is I actually want to sharpen the edges, but I don't want to sharpen obviously every edge. I just want basically this sharpening round here. You can see this round here needs a sharp edge. So what we can do is actually we can grab these parts. Now they are done. And I just need to check the other side out as well. So I'm just going to hide those parts and we should be left with these. Now let's go to the other side and just make sure they're okay. Yeah, and they look fine as well. So let's grab these ones as well. And then we'll hide those. And now we'll come to this part. Now I'm going to just hide this just to make it, oops, I'm going to select. And I'm just going to hide this just to make it a little bit easier to see what we're doing. And we're going to do the same on this one. So let's hide this like so. Now we need to sharpen these edges on here, but if we try and grab the whole thing and use the shade sharp edges, it's not actually going to work, because all it'll do is it'll shade this part in here as well, and we really don't want that. It just doesn't look right. So let's spend the time just going round. I think we just need to grab these edges, what I'm grabbing here, and the back ones of course. So we'll grab these ones, and what we'll do then is come up to mesh again, shading, and we're going to sharp edges. And now when we look, yes, we can see we've got our nice sharp edges going up, yet we've still got this part which is a softer part of the wood. So that's exactly what I want. So now if I go back, I can actually know that this is okay. And now I can go in with Alt Shift again and grab all my edges on this side, where basically where we've actually marked seams out. Let's have a look where that one is. There it is. And you might need to hide yours. That's the wrong one. Your main part of your catapult, just to mark these seams. It might make it a bit easier for you. So let's make sure I've got them. I think I've got one more to do, which is there. Control E and oh, actually we can do it. Control E, and you can see there you've got something which is mark sharp. This one here, and then if you press tab, it does exactly the same thing as that option up there. I just forgot about it. So we've got those, and now let's do the other parts. So we just need to now come along and mark these edges in here, all on the outside of them. This one here, look, we've got a seam there. Now we don't want to actually mark our edge there though. The edge wants to be on this part here, so it's not messed around with the UV being there. It's still open correctly, but we just want to make sure we're marking the seam in the correct place, because that won't look particularly right. So if you look, I'm like putting it in the corners here in the right place like this. So let's have a look at what we've got left, and let's see if I can grab this one from this angle. I think I can. So like that, and then I think just one more part to do, and I just want to I'm going to press Control E, and I'm going to mark sharp. Then I'm going to press on one of these parts, dot on the number pad, just to zoom in, and now I can see exactly what I'm doing on this and get a good orientation when I rotate it. So Control E, mark sharp, and now let's have a quick look when we bring it back in. So I will press tab, and let's have a look what that looks like. And I can see that the edges are looking nice, but I can see that I also have to do the top on these just to finish them off. So I'll do that now. So what I'll do is I'll go into face select, and we'll try marking this sharp. So Control E, mark sharp, and let's have a look now what that looks like. And yeah, I think that's looking much better. I'll put my wood on again just to give it a test, just to make sure that I'm happy with how it looks. Yeah, and there we go. I'm happy with how that looks. Actually, it looks much better. These look smooth, and this looks hard. And yeah, it's gonna be good like that. So now let's go in and finish these. So just pick the top face on these. Whoops. Like so. Control E and mock shop. Okay, that's that side done. And now basically we just need to replicate that over to this side. Now you can mirror it, but I'm not going to do that because I already worked out actually my UVs, and they all look different. So I don't actually want to mess around with the UVs at this point. I'm glad actually we finished our UVs. It's kind of a tedious job, and we are on the final straight now. It's just adding the finishing touches just to make sure that everything is correct. And I think a lot of courses just go through the motions and they don't go through all this part of tidying things up. So this is why when you are making something to a high level, let's mark shop on that, that you do need to go in and just make sure that everything is looking correct, because you've spent a lot of time on this model, and the last thing you want is to put it on ArtStation or on Turbo Squid or something like that, and there to be faults with it. So it's just worth taking the time to get it correct. Okay, so that's that one, and just this one now. And then we'll give it one last final check over, and I think actually after this everything's going to be ship shape. Okay, let's have a look at this. So Control E again and mark shop, and last thing we need to do now is just these top faces. So let's just grab those like so. And press Control E, mark sharp, and now press tab, and let's have a look what we've got. So I'm just going around now and just making sure that the edges are done the way that I want them, and I think they're pretty much looking the way I want. So now finally I'm just going to have one more look around just to make sure that everything is okay. Am I happy with these bolts, for instance? I think I'm actually happy with how they've turned out, where they've got a little bit of roundness on them. It looks realistic to me, and yeah, that's looking well now. So now we've joined it all together. The first thing we need to do is we need to put in our rope, and then we can actually reset the orientation and all that sort of stuff. So let's come first to this part here. Press tab, and let's grab one piece of rope. So press L, hovering over it, Shift S and cursor to selected, Shift A, and let's bring in a cylinder, and it's going to come in at 32. We definitely don't need that. Let's put it at 12, something like that. And now let's make it much smaller, but first of all we'll just get rid of these. We really don't need these, so delete faces, and now we can grab it all, shrink it down. And what we want to do is we want to make this the same kind of size as this rope down here. So we're going to shrink it down. And we also want it to come out, basically, if you imagine this turning, if it's turning this way, for instance, and it releases going the other way, it means the rope should be on the back. If it's going the other way, so then it's coming up from here, for instance, it means that this is turning then this way, if that makes sense. So rope on back, turn the other way. Rope on front, turn this way. So just remember that when you're actually thinking about animating this. So whichever way you prefer. I actually feel like I want my rope to come from possibly down here somewhere. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to press SZ and just bring it up just a little bit like that, just so I can see what I'm doing. And then I want to place my rope exactly where I want it to be. So I want my rope to be here, and you can see that it has to come to this one here. So now once I've got it in place, then I can actually start manipulating this. So I'm going to grab the top edges, so Alt and Shift and click. I'm going to pull it up, keep pulling it up, press 1 on your number pad if you need to see it better. So let's bring it up into place, and let's put it right where it needs to go, and obviously it needs to pull into the side as well, so just get it into place and then just make sure that you're happy with the size of the rope. I think I want my rope actually to be just a tad thinner, like something like that. And don't worry too much about the bends in it at the moment. We're going to sort that out. So let's bring it up now and put it in place. And I want it to be round about the center at the moment, just to make it easier for me. And now if I press tab, I can have a look at that, and I can see that I also need it to come down as well. So I'm going to grab the bottom of here. So Alt Shift and click, and if you can't, just press dot on your number pad. That'll zoom you in again. So Alt Shift click, and let's pull it down just so it's hidden within there, like so. And obviously you can see the ropes coming over a little bit over this rope, so let's pull it to the side just so it's not as much, like so. And that's the first piece of rope in. And the next thing I want to do is actually I need to give this some loop cuts just in case you do want to bend it. So let's press Control R, and let's try 12. So 12, left click, right click, and we've got some loop cuts in there then ready for it to be bent in some way. So now grab the rope, press Shift D, and let's bring it over, and you can press R, X, and just then twist it round just a little bit, and just pull this second piece of rope into the place where you want it. And you see it's not going to fit perfectly, and to be honest, we don't want it fitting perfectly. We want it to be a little bit different. So let's pull it out just a little bit like so, and we're just going to move it over just a little bit just to get that into place, and I think I'm happy with that. And you can see it's slightly more forward than this one. That's fine. I mean, I want it to look different. I don't want it to be the same, as I say. Looking from the side now, you can see it's looking kind of realistic. So with that done, we can press tab, and the last thing we need to do, come into face select, and now you can press right click and shade smooth, and there you go, they're shaded smooth, just making sure that they're looking good. Now we need to give this material, but the thing is, we have to take into account with anything like this that there's going to be stretching on the mesh, definitely stretching. Now if the mesh stretches, it means that the texture also will stretch, so we can combat that, but only if we give it another material. Because if we give it the same material as this rope here, that means when this is stretched and we change it, we're also going to manipulate this rope here, and we don't actually want that. So what we'll do is we'll come over first of all to material, and we have our rope material here, which is not named for some reason, so we'll name that. So we'll call it rope, and then what we'll do is we'll press plus, come back up to your rope, and just click on this down arrow, and you're going to press copy material. Come down now to this material here, click new, and then click this button here, paste material. And now what we'll do is we'll call this rope animation, and then we know that this part is the rope animation. And now what we're going to do is we're going to actually assign this material just to these two parts here. So let's click assign, let's press Alt H and bring those back as well. So now if we go to our material button, and now we're just going to check to make sure that this looks the same as this. So let's press tab, and you can see that the way out, which we expected, and press Ctrl A and rotation and scale, and now we'll go back in, and what we'll do is we'll press U and unwrap, and we'll get something like that, as we know, which is not correct. So let's go to UV editing now, and press tab, and dot on your number pad just to zoom in. And now I'm going to have a look exactly what's wrong with these things, and what's wrong with them is because I didn't mark a seam, of course. So let's go to vert select, and we'll mark a seam here and a seam here. Press Ctrl E, mark seam, and now when we grab them and unwrap them, they should unwrap much nicer, which they have, albeit they're a bit too chunky. So what we need to do now is we need to line up this rope and this rope here so they look kind of the same. So let's go in, press A, and let's press S, and make them much smaller. So we can see that at the moment this rope is still a bit too chunky, so let's make it bigger, and let's just see if they're now round about the same. So I can see perhaps still a little tiny bit chunky, so I'm just going to make them a bit bigger like so, and then I'm going to double tap A, and now I'm going to have a look and just make sure they're looking pretty much the same. I can also check up here as well, and I can see the thinness of it. They're still too chunky, so I will go back in and I'm going to make them a bit bigger, and now I can see they're around about the same size, so they're looking good right now. So now we can go back into modeling. And that's it for this lesson. So on the next lesson we'll start adding the armature, adding the individual bones and things like that. So we had to get this done just to make sure everything was tidy, perfectly ready for animating. So hope you enjoyed that one. Hope to see you on the next lesson, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye everyone.